Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome yet again to our 9th lockdown episode of 2021 and the 72nd episode of the Madaxeman podcast. This week, of course, the full gang of 7 are back in this normal weekly special, and we're discussing all sorts of things. How to bend the legs on cavalry riders. There's a lengthy discussion about black and white and choices in between. Atlatl pronunciation gets a shout out. We of course have Andy's quiz with another onanastic theme this week, and I'm sorry, I think you're going to faces the tricky subject of competition war games and whether curing bad eggs is a possible solution, where the idea of a cured egg is just inherently bad.
This means war.
Well, welcome everybody to episode, I think in our slightly erratic series, this is technically 72, following on from the number 70, which was the last podcast of this type, and then we've squeezed in a army list building podcast midweek, as is sometimes the want on the Bulgars and the Byzantines. But we're back with the full set of 7 here, assembled in their various kitchens and hobby bunkers, and Gord only knows where Peter is. He always puts up a Zoom background, so we've got no real idea of what the Badger Mansion looks like in the background.
It's a hide away the mansion. You know, we wouldn't want to be horrific about it. You know,
no.
In downtown Canary Wharf.
Yeah, probably best to keep it that way, I guess. That's the secret. And we've got the full set of people assembled for the usual mix of chat about painting, chat about gaming, and our increasing number of features, which I have a sneaking suspicion some of them may actually generate their own spin-off shows, and it could end up being a bit like Frasier, possibly, and we could be the gang at Cheers sat around the bar. So, but without further ado, then just into the what have you been painting this week. Let's start off with Mr. Saunders, with your beer very front and center in your screen there on Zoom. It looks like a very dark bottle, and you're painting through your magneto microscope as we speak as well. What's been on the painting table for you this week?
So we're still on the boring old Battle of the Boyne, or Ogrim, or whatever it's called, and I'm on to the cavalry now. So this is a fog Renaissance army. So they're a battle group's in 4 bases. So I've got one lot of Williamites cavalry in their little white jackets with little blue cuffs. Lurkio figures. Yeah, they're all right. They're okay.
Yeah, because sometimes their cavalry, or certainly those ones, can be a little bit stubby. I'm not sure. I've seen, the infantry are cute, but what are the horses like on those? Are they a bit Mike's Models-esque, or is that unfair to those particular horses?
I'd say they seem to be riding greyhounds.
Oh right, they're slim and long and low, or
yeah, and I know what you mean about Mike's Models. The cavalrymen are a bit Mike's Models, so their legs are a bit splayed, should we say?
Yeah.
So I think they're going to fall off. The super glue is going to come away quite often. I think they're going to be re-gluing onto their greyhounds quite often.
Right. Okay, you're not one of those who squeezes the legs together with a pair of pliers just before slotting them on.
I have got a pair of pliers right here.
Okay, yeah.
However,
just the one.
Well, I've got more in the cupboard, if you know what I mean. But I'm actually a bit nervous about trying to. How can I put this? They're kind of bow-legged, but they're all sort of very solid. The legs aren't sort of.
Right. It's that kind of metal that might not bend as much as some of the other ones.
And also, I think they're kind of like a bit of like an A shape.
Okay, all right.
You know what I mean? So I don't think the legs are actually. I think if I tried to sort of like push the legs together, they might break. I'll probably break a boot off. And but they're great. They're nice little figures. They're really good. I've enjoyed this army. I mean, it's coming towards an end now, which is nice because. You know what it's like when you've done, especially with a fog army, it's bloody huge. After a while of painting the same figures and the same units, you go, how much longer can this drag on? So,
I must admit, I think I can just about remember my Louis XIV French, which was that sort of same kind of era, and
Yeah.
an awful lot of those were grey. And okay, they had different cuffs and collars and things like that, but it was black undercoat and then a heavy dry brush to get that kind of grey effect across all of them. And then there just was an awful lot of them. And I do keep looking in that drawer and chatting with Simon on WhatsApp to think about which of the far too many units of Louis XIV I can comfortably afford to rebuild and change into ADLGR units as well, because I think I've got some extra bases to turn the French into a what was that army? The Swedish army that was like super effective in Fogar as well, but that had 2 lots of pikemen. It was like a very late Swedish army, so they were wearing the Louis XIV sort of uniforms, but they were still 3-2, or sorry, 2-1 with pike and shot, rather than the 5-1s in Fogar. So I ended up doubling up with extra pikemen for all of those different units. So if I do rebase them, the grey will all be consistent, but I will end up having to repaint a lot of collars and cuffs, which will be a bit fiddly to turn them into proper units.
These seem to be quite, yes, there's a lot of grey. And I started painting a sort of like darkish grey at first, and then I realised they should be lighter, so I repainted them with a light grey. And then I realised that some of the other units are white.
Right.
So it's like, it's a bit sort of, that's a white unit with blue cuffs, and that's a grey unit with blue cuffs. And so
they're
going to look great. I'm really pleased with them.
How white do you go when you're painting white? And I'm kind of, because I think Tamsin last week you mentioned something about if you're painting people's eyes, don't paint them white. And I think then there was
that was a couple of weeks ago.
That was a couple of weeks ago, and there were 6 other people saying that's very interesting, but we're never painting eyes ever again in our lives. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
But in terms of what colour to paint for a white coat or white uniform or stuff, do you actually go with white? I don't know, Dave.
Depends. Depends on what sort of material it would be.
Right. Okay.
I'd usually start off with either. Well, it depends. If it's going to go to a sort of white, so sort of cotton or linen or silk, I tend to go with a very pale grey as the base and build up from that. But for sort of wool, occasionally some linens, but more wool. I tend to go with a sort of sand-coloured base and build up to a sort of creamy ivory.
All right, because I think I used some ivory. It was Second World War German interior tank colour, which I had lying around, having thought about your stuff from a couple of weeks ago about the eyeballs, and did some, which sort of softened it. But Dave, what are you doing on those ones that you're?
I always use white to paint things, because when you're playing Escape and everything looks sort of like creamy odd colours anyway. I don't stress about
we normally
it.
play somewhere
It's
with
been
terrible lighting.
overcomplicated
I was just
for me.
thinking, are you going to have to repaint all those
White.
Austrians?
Oh,
Yeah.
I could deal with white. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave, what paint are you waving at us there?
Well, when I began, because the first paints I bought were all the coat d'arms, and like you, the tops are all cracked. So I run out of white. So now, because I was doing some Napoleonics, I've got off-white, game colour off-white, and it is off-white. It's slightly more, but I'm finding I want to use more shades of white, if that makes sense.
How many shades of white are there, really? How do you layer up white?
You're starting to sound like a Dulux commercial now.
I've done, like Tamsin was saying the other week, I've ordered some deck grey.
Okay.
Deck tan.
Deck grey. No, deck white, isn't it?
Deck tan.
Is it deck tan? I don't know.
Sorry, but
You might have ordered the wrong thing, Dave.
It just makes it sound like I haven't cleaned my brush properly when you're painting.
Yep.
There's a Vallejo black and white box set, and I've just been playing with the idea of
What?
buying the sort of like.
Sorry,
A whole box of black and white.
The best thing I've heard all day.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so like, yeah.
I think Vallejo call it the philosophical paint set.
Exactly.
How many
I
different
do-
shades of black and white are
What
there?
was it? 50 Shades of Grey, is it? You know, that's a book
But-
day. You know, you
don't
need
they
to get
co-
out a bit more.
Don't they call it that I've just mugged you off set or something like that?
3 sets of black.
You've got 3 sets of black there. Wow.
I've got black grey. Black grey I use a lot. Black grey is really good.
Okay.
I've got black and black grey. And
So,
grey.
when do you use black grey in a different context to black? Then how does that work?
Well, quite often, because I often paint a horse. I'll undercoat it black, and then I'll dry brush grey over it, and then I might even fill in black grey onto the horse to give it some definition. Black grey is really dark, and it's a good one. I like it a lot. And
is it visibly different to your black undercoat though?
Yeah. It's completely.
I've been looking at pictures of your figures on Instagram on what is it, Frumentarius? Is it Frumentarius 23 or something?
No, that's Mini Painter 20.
Mini Painter, sorry, Mini Painter.
I'll try to keep it well separate, so you know.
Oh right, okay, different one. So it's Mini Painter.
I've got to
23.
admit the nuance level of painting is obviously beyond my capabilities of appreciation.
Tamsin's inspired me with talking about.
Tamsin scares me with her level of detail. Let's be honest. You know, when she starts saying about the multiple layers she's done, I'm like, well, by the time she's done that, I've done half a unit. You know.
But I think
I've quite often done a full unit.
it's really good.
But actually, that's the thing that
Probably
really
right.
annoys me. Not only does Tamsin paint far, far better than I ever will, she also paints quicker as well, and that really, really annoys me.
that's just truly disturbing now.
That just doesn't work properly, does it? Yep.
The idea of doing layers, so like with these guys, because the person I'm doing the commission for was insistent I didn't undercoat black, so I didn't, and he wasn't very happy about me inking in black. So coming to a sort of like, so these guys who have got white uniforms on the cavalry, they've got like white jackets, a white long coat, and if you just paint them white, they're going to look a bit weird. So I've inked them black and then painted whites back over the top.
Okay, and you painted white or off white or grey white or deck white?
Off white.
Off white. Okay.
So when I've inked, so they're undercoated whites. When you put a black ink onto them, they go a bit grey. And then I painted off white back over the top again.
But when you're saying you put a black ink on them, is that literally a black ink, or is that the Army Painter dark tone or whatever it's called?
No, it's the coat d'arms black ink, that one.
Oh, right. Okay. That's a big old pot. Yeah, you must use quite a bit of that then.
I've used quite a few bottles of those over the years. It's one of my favourite things. I mean, when I began, I didn't get inks at all. I was just sitting there going, "Oh, this is horrible. It just doesn't work. They just get horrible, mucky." And it does take a time to get used to inks, but inking is. If the figures are defined enough, they're cut into enough, and they've got folds in that, it really works a treat.
Actually, it's funny. I had every now and then I get an email back through Madaxeman.com, and this was some chap who said he was just really grateful for one of the painting tips pages that I'd put up on the site, and he was saying how my kind of commentary about, I think it's Winsor and Newton peat brown and canary yellow mix had just suddenly raised his painting game and that suddenly given him the mojo to get back and paint some ancients after all this time. And I was thinking, I must have done that painting guide. I think it was for some hoplites. That it might be 10, 15 years old or something that it's been on the website. And I was literally rebasing those same hoplites in the last couple of weeks. And I decided to not repaint them because I thought they still look all right, actually. And the focus is on the shields. But yeah, getting into inks and stuff does really change things.
This means war.
You're Mr. Bish Bosh contrast paint, do it all really, aren't you? But this week, have you managed to get those wing Tazars glued together with all our different glue strategies and things like that over the last week or so?
No, unfortunately, work has intervened. But in sheer joyful periods between work meetings, I've been looking at some of the other stuff that I'm thinking of doing, such as the Syrians as well as some of the South Americans, and looking up about how to do sort of was it Atelier sort of spears. I'm pronouncing it incorrectly.
The Atlatl or whatever it is.
Atlatl. You know,
Is it
the spear
Atlatl?
chuckers.
Am I making that one up? Anybody else?
Atlatl.
Atlatl.
Atlatl. But they look pretty cool. And also the Assyrian glass axes and stuff. I thought they looked pretty nice. Problem is when you have a moment to stop and like, oh, I wonder what they're like. You find odd YouTubes where someone's actually made one, and it starts getting a bit freaky. So
an obsidian glass blade, because is this high-end kitchen equipment or something?
No, I saw one where one guy had actually made an axe, and you actually get inserting the glass into it and everything else, which was a bit surreal. But you know, it was like painting up one of those would be quite nice. You know, seeing the colours with the Aztecs and Mayans and Jaguar warriors and stuff. But
so really, then you're
just something
your
very
lack
different.
of painting this week. So work was too busy for you to do any painting, but clearly not too busy at all for you to do lots of internet browsing and think about stuff.
5 minutes to search something is sort of as opposed to setting up the paints and anything else. I'm not at a sort of Tasman level of able to sort of glance at something and then all of a sudden half a unit's painted. Unfortunately, I'm a fair bit slower than that.
Yeah. So did you get any further down the line? Because I think last week you were talking about putting together an order from Khorasan and trying to work out some biblical lists for Assyrians. Things like that. Did you get much further down that route?
I was working with Dave and a couple of you on that, going back and forth on the list. So I had a chat with Dave in a break between meetings to talk around the list, and we were comparing a few, weren't we, Dave? Looking at a few lists. And what's the optimum level number of chariots to have?
I don't think you got back to me on the price of the chariots, Peter. Did you know how much the chariots?
That's because they're not there yet.
Right. Okay.
As I said, we're waiting for him to post the rest of the codes up, which hopefully should be later on in the month. Yeah, and the number of chariots went from some to most to we obviously need more. But we were very technical about it. Dave was actually quite smart with some of these looking at it when we started breaking it down about, you know, so many medium foot, so many heavy, and so many chariots and horsemen and everything else. So we've got a bit kind of nucleus of it, but we're just waiting for him to put the rest of the codes on because there's a number of different troop types we want to see when we put the order in. So it's kind of working out how we work it, and there's several lists out there of how people have utilized it, from, you know, breaking down to 2 wings to doing the single command with integrated commander. So therefore, obviously, you need another chariot that's got a general in it, which is another excuse for a chariot. So working out some of the different ways and how we'd want to put it and everything else. Plus, there's the old doing the mix units where you have the half and half. So, you know, doing the half basing with the bowmen, so we can actually have that mixed up or together. So therefore, I've got to buy some sabots as well.
Also, are you going to go, or you could just buy the troops twice as well?
Yeah. Going back to Tasman, paint's a lot faster than me.
Okay, right. Oh, okay then. Just two specs. So, are you going to, you know, committed to doing 100% Khorasan with that army then?
If I can, yes, because I'd like to sort of like get it themed. You know, makes up for my enhances my abilities in my painting. I can actually get it to be consistent, consistently good or bad, doesn't matter, but at least consistent look and feel across the piece. That's what I'm aiming for anyway. So I quite like the idea of it. I've got it in my head that it'd actually have quite a nice look and feel, and I haven't really embraced many biblical ones. I've got the term sort of like, you know, generic Chinese army and a Indian army, but I haven't really dipped my toes into some of the biblical ones.
And were you going to, and did you actually end up deciding to buy enough extra troops? I think, Adam, you were talking about the Uratus and the Ivavus and the Babylonians and stuff. Peter, are you going to be buying a whole set of biblical armies, or is it an Assyrian core army?
There's the core army, and talking to Dave, by the time that we finish, like going, oh, well, just to add a bit of this and a sprinkle of that, I think we could probably end up fielding about a dozen armies by the time we finished. But that's without even trying.
So basically, if you know, hopefully there's no government agencies listening to this, otherwise Boris Johnson will be on the phone asking you to delay this order until they've got a trade deal with America and they can announce this as dramatically increasing transatlantic trade. You'll be kind of a poster boy for the Brexit global Britain era, won't you? In terms of
we're
the volume of
chartering
trade with the States.
a ship to deliver the containers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and that's 15 mil. It's a good job that Khorasan don't do 28s then, really, I guess. Excellent. So but you didn't do any.
Quite fancy that.
You didn't even have any go at gluing your fingers together or stuff. It was just.
No, it just ended up being one shelf too far between everything else I got on at the moment, unfortunately, because I had to shelve them for a minute while sorting out a few other things. Okay,
all right. Well, let's just keep going around the circle then. So, Adam, what have you been painting this week? Did you crack into a new Perry box? That keeps being the perennial question, but you've still ducked it.
No, I haven't done too much painting. The baggage and the Dacian light horse, all 4 of them. They've been painted, and I've had the army painted slop on. I need to do the shield transfers and then basing. Again, I've been working this week, so I haven't been doing too much. And also, I've picked up a book that I haven't looked at in ages, and it's one of the all-time most impressive military history. Well, it's actually naval history books I've ever read. Actually, it's called Kaigan. Mm-hmm. And it's a history of the Japanese Navy from about 1880 to 1941. And the research is really impressive, and it's really interesting because I've been reading that again. Do you remember that computer game I mentioned about dreadnoughts and aircraft carriers?
It's really, really tedious. But
did they do the
no, it's not tedious.
One in that book?
This is the thing about that game. It's not tedious. It's it looks like an accounting spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But it's actually if you're into that thing, and because I read this book, I was like, oh, I want to play that again. So I've been playing that when I should have been painting, to be perfectly honest. So I've been painting a little bit. It's been going forward. It's all good.
Okay.
Do they do the Russia-Japan bit where Russia steamed all the way around? I remember doing that in history. So they sacked them all again.
Well, no, what, in the game or the book?
Book.
In the book, they talk about the Japanese Navy. It's really detailed. It's about the development of the Japanese Navy. So it talks huge about the thinking in the Japanese Navy about what they were doing and what they were trying to do and what they learned and what they did different. So, because Japan had a war with China in 1894 and learned from that, and they put that lessons to use in the war against Russia. So Tsushima was sort of like the long culmination of a development for the Japanese Navy. They talk about that. It's all sort of quite interesting. The meat of the book, though, is the development of the Japanese Navy in the 20s and 30s. So it's an explanation of why the Japanese fleet fought the Second World War as it did, and why it was what it was. And it's just, if you're into naval warfare, naval history, it's the most impressive piece of research and I've seen, really. So yeah, interesting.
What's the name of the book
I read
again?
somewhere the Japanese would cancel naval exercises if they thought there was a chance of losing one of their torpedoes and somebody else finding one. Those long range torpedoes.
I don't think that's true, because you can set a torpedo to sink or float at the end of its run. Because the thing about Japanese training, especially in the 20s and 30s, was they wanted to do a lot of night fighting, torpedo attacks at night to even up against a bigger American fleet. So they did really realistic training, and people died on the training because there were collisions of destroyers. But it kind of paid off, because when it got to the Second World War, they were far better than the Americans at night fighting, even though the Americans had radar. Oh, and the book's called Kaigan, which is Japanese for Navy. So,
Icon. Okay, because one other thing on history books or first-hand account books, I saw this week on Twitter. I don't know how many of you have come across it, but there's a book that always kind of pops up Second World War. It's like D-Day through German eyes, and I think I actually got it on Amazon when it was 99p on
that was Kindle, out years ago, wasn't it?
Kindle or something. It's kind of keeps coming around, and there's this thing saying it's basically a complete 100% fraud. Everything about it is completely made up. Even it's supposed to be translated from an original publisher or something, and even the name of the translator and the publisher and the guy who wrote it is just complete fiction. It's like a really and there's been a sequel. There's a second one as well, the D-Day through German eyes, The Return or something, and it was just and various people. When you see something on Twitter, you kind of think, is this some bloke having a rant? And suddenly, loads of other people pile in and go, yes, we've also been saying this is a fraud for years, but people kind of ignore it because they want it to be true, which is kind of weird. But I guess it's a little bit more lively than the logistics of the development of the Japanese fleet in 1924 to 38 or something. But yeah, have a dig about it if you've got that in your collection. It's just a load of old tosh.
Whose eyes was it through?
What was that, Dave?
Whose eyes was it through then?
I think that nobody really knows, but it's so thin that the name of the author's made up. He's supposed to have got it from his father, who never existed. It was supposed to have been published in Germany by a company which never existed. Just literally everything about it is complete, very easily disprovable fabrication.
When lots of the Germans on the Normandy beach as well, the German troops were actually Ukrainians and Russians and things like that.
Yeah,
Not all of them. Some of them were, I think.
Some of them were, yeah.
Some of them were, yeah, but certainly, they weren't the ones who were listed in this book, which is kind of odd. But there you go, kind of interesting.
This means war.
Let's keep going around then. Simon, what about you? What's been happening for you this week, paint wise or purchasing wise, or all sorts of things like that?
So absolutely nothing in purchasing, and I've painted a grand total of 2 bases again this week.
Whoa!
So I'm really
kind of blowing hot and cold on this, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah, the joys of, like Peter, the joys of end of financial year tend to keep me rather busy. So.
Right.
Hopefully in a month's time, when it's all done, I can get back to doing something else. I got my first of my hopper lattes.
Ah, okay then. Yep, those are the so those are the museum ones, the new ones, and you've based them 4 and 3 there on, and they're pretty tight, aren't they? On that base, have you put them to the back of the base?
Yes. So what I've done here is they're on a 40 by 40 base.
Okay.
Give them a bit more bum room. So I wanted to have a bit more of the space in the front of the base. They're nice models, so you might have given a bit of space. So I've got 4 in the front, so the shields are overlapping. So as you guys were saying, that you tend to really only notice the shields.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You might as well go with it. So you got that big front shield wall coming at you, and then there's just space for 3 guys at the back. So
you've got a spare then somewhere.
Yeah, I might have a few spares kicking around, but we won't talk about that.
Okay.
So they've come out quite nice. And then the other one is just for something completely different. Are the small domestic pets in a wheel with electrical tape or something? No, well, I was thinking you need some hamsters, but just finished off the baggage, or most of the baggage for the Ottoman Turks. So some donkeys and stuff like that, and janissary and a city levy.
Are they carrying your red wine there, Simon?
Yeah, so
they're in the pots at the back.
The 2 pots, the big urns at the back of the red wine. Then there's the crisps and other edibles in the middle. You got the bag of miniatures, so you got all the train cloths, and then find the bag of miniatures and the front donkey. So just getting ready for a wargaming competition, really. Yeah, no, that's a box full of dice, isn't it? I can see on that donkey at the front. Definitely. Oh, that works. Okay. Then. So is this like the closing the door on the Ottoman army then? Yeah, so I'm struggling to think of what extra I could add for the Turks. So I'm sure I'll park them now and then go find another army to set up. Okay. No, because it's funny enough. I've sat looking on the workbench here. I've actually got some, well, they're not quite Ottomans yet, if that makes sense. I've been painting up today or the last day or so some horses from that Legio Heroica order that I think I put in before Christmas or something, or before Brexit anyway. And I've got about 20 Ottoman Sipahis and mounted bowmen and things like that to paint up and base up, because I just kind of got tired of if I was using an Ottoman army just turfing out generic Arab cavalry, and I want some with that little red hat thing.
and the white around it, or the off-white around it. So, and then, but because it's been part of a big sort of undercoat thing, I just suddenly thought, right, I can do these horses now. I've got my horse trick with the inks and the different washes. So I painted up the 20 horses, and I've just done the final layer of army painter wash to them now. And actually, what's motivating me to do that, I've not even started the riders, but I also did in the last week or so a load of the Museum Z-scupts for their Scythians and Greek cavalry that I was wanting to base up as Thracians and kind of mix them all together. So there's a mix of different guys with bows and javelins and different types of hats, and quite a lot have got those sort of, is it a Phrygian cap or the Scythian type cap? And
the Noddy hats.
The Noddy hats, that's exactly right. Yes, that's a much clearer description. But those have been, they painted up really nicely. It's interesting though, because they're one-piece castings, which you don't see so much these days with cavalry, and it makes them easy to do and all the rest of it. But when they're all lined up, they're a little bit in line. And I painted up a dozen Zeiston Persian cavalry at the same time, and that is separate rider and horse, and they are sat square on the horse and are kind of wide with their arms down by the sides and the rest of it. They're at 90 degrees to the horse, whereas a lot of the poses for the museum are throwing a javelin along the axis of the horse or shooting a bow along the axis of the horse. And when you don't know you're looking for it, you don't notice it, because you can put the horses at different angles and things like that. And the museum sculpts have got almost more variety than I thought they did, really. I think each of their packs has 3 different, subtly different poses, or a different hat, or a different, some of them are bare-chested, some of them are not.
Why do you like the single castings? Does it just sort of survive your handling of them a bit better or something?
Yeah, well,
is that what you're trying to tell us?
Dave was saying sometimes they fall off, but I think maybe it's something that used to happen. There used to be more companies that did one-piece castings, but a lot of it's now just sort of museum are almost the outlier on that one. And it painting them up, it was like, is it a good thing? Is it not? It's just different, but you just need to put the horses at slightly different angles and not necessarily be looking out for it. But I was really chuffed by the way they came out, and also these Zeiston Persian cavalry, which is my second dozen or so. So they got done this week, but I wanted to get the horses done for the Ottomans, partly because I was in a painting horses zone, and partly because I want to get the horses off the little lollipop sticks so I can use the lollipop sticks to glue up the next batch of figures that's going to need undercoating, because I ended up putting in an order to Donington to pick up some more Thracian infantry from Zeiston, which then added to an eBay purchase, which is slightly accidental, to get me the more Thracians that I thought I needed, and then some more Egyptian spearmen.
Slightly accidental, sort of. What you just nudge the iPad while you're looking at it?
It was the weirdest thing. So I kind of mentally
stared at you funny.
No, I did. No, so like you've done with Kurasan, I'd mentally worked out what stuff I was going to buy from Donington, which was some Thracian infantry, Romphiers, and some with javelins, and this, that, and the other. And then I was also going to buy some of these really nice Zeiston Egyptian spearmen. To make I think it's a Sataic Egyptian army that needs about half a dozen of them, and I've only got 2 bases and it needs about half a dozen. And then I was going to get a couple of generals and some bits and bobs, and then I was thinking, do I get some more generals figures for all the hoplites I've rebased as well? And then I saw a lot on eBay that was 6 packs of Zeiston, and 5 of them were ones I was going to order from Donington. Anyway, and it was like, that's a bit weird. It was like somebody was targeting me through very clever internet marketing. So I managed to win that bid for less, including postage, for less than the cost of buying the 5 packs I wanted. So I saved myself several pence there, but then that gave me another extra week to think what I wanted to buy. So I probably ended up buying more from Donington anyway, and got that. But so I've got this stuff coming my way from.
Six pack from that eBay win, is that?
Yeah.
Is that something you can use anyway, or is it going to develop?
Oh no, the 6th pack is some kind of whatever they kind of Greek peasants hurling stones. There's a word for them, hamiopii, or what's
Plebs.
Australian.
Yeah, plebs, I think. So
Fodder.
I'm sure one of those Greek armies has some levy, so they can be, and if they're just plebs, they can get painted up kind of quickly. So
basically.
yeah, I've got far too many Greek Siloi, so I might try and find somebody that uses some levy in it. And then I also got in the post as well. There's a guy called Ryan who's runs one of the Facebook groups for UK war games shows and events listings. So I always kind of look at that one when I'm updating the calendar on the BSGS site, and he looks at this and the rest of it. And he got in touch and said that he's actually running a Kickstarter for a company to do some 10mm Barons War figures. And did I want some to have a look at? So I'm like, yeah, that's free stuff.
Oh, I saw those. They look nice.
Yeah, so I've actually got a set of the infantry and some of the cavalry and knights, and they're really sharp. Actually, they're a very.
These are the ones we discussed in the last series of podcasts.
I think it might be. Yeah, we got some. They're super sharp castings. They're very different in style to that kind of Pendragon, chunky, and will be painted with a sort of dry brushy technique style. And so I've got a bucket load of them. I think sometime later this week, I think I mentioned it last week, me and Dave are going to do a Hanger Lane gyratory system rendezvous once Dave is confident that the vaccine hasn't knocked him out for 2 days. In fact, we've not talked about that. How did it go? Did any ill effects?
It was all good. I had a nice chat with the nurse who stuck the needle in me.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I'm actually feeling fine. No ill effects. We'll see how I feel tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Did you have the vaccination today?
Yeah, this morning, 10 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, I had mine on a Sunday morning. On Monday, I felt a bit ropey, just slightly fluey, but that didn't last long. Although I did feel really tired for a couple of days.
I've been no more tired than I have been normally.
No, good.
My enforced lockdown beyond belief, I think.
Yeah. No, so I bagged these little 10mm figures up into 2 different bags, and it will be handing over small plastic bag to Dave at Hanger Lane Gyratory System sometime towards the back end of this week, and hopefully not being arrested for doing whatever it looks like we probably are doing. And so I'm just
bags, yeah.
I want to kind of get them undercoated as well, just to see how they work and what they do. It's not I'm not going to end up with a 10mm army of Barons Walk figures, but it's always nice just to try something in a different scale or
Sorry, can we do that as famous last words?
Yeah,
I'm not going to end up with this 3 podcasts later. Well, you never this kind of jumped out at me.
Exactly, but I've managed to resist the British Napoleonic army still for nearly a year now.
That's only because you haven't been playing the game on the table.
That's
as soon as you do,
just buy them.
Yeah,
Tim, I think there's some serendipity going on here, because it's only a few weeks ago there was a question about, and you found out there was a battle in Peterborough that you never knew about before.
Lincoln,
and that battle was in the Barons.
It was
Lincoln, which is just down the road from your manor. And that battle was from the Barons' War. So you've now got the figures. So you're kind of duty bound to sort of go down that rabbit hole.
I think it'd be rude not to.
Well, look, I've got no intention of doing it, but you know how these things sort of tend to be. But yeah, it was just interesting to kind of get some extra stuff through the post. Dave, I'm not sure you've done much 10mm. Have you done any 10mm before?
I'm going to ask a question on that. I've never bought any 10mm. Well, I have. I bought some Callistra artillery, medieval artillery, to use as light guns with 15mm crews.
Yeah.
So I got some Essex crews and mixed them, because that was actually Martin Vexilia's idea. They're really good. They look really good for Hussite artillery. But the question I was going to ask is, these new Kickstarter 10mm, does that mean they're going to mix with old style minifigs 15mm?
No, they're these are proper.
Ask the scale master.
Proper 10 mil.
Yeah, super tiny. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That's
Teeny tiny N gauge, I
Yeah, they
suspect.
tend to be on a single strip, like one row of miniatures, like 4 or 5 on a strip.
I think that's the old glory ones. That's the old glory ones. These are all separate. These are all individuals. But,
okay. But that's like the mini pigs used to come on a strip, didn't they?
no, they did, yeah, but that was like really, really old scale. But these are a little bit better than super old minifigs. But then again, I could probably carve something with a spoon that was better than some of those really old minifigs, I suspect. Unless Dave Allen's listening, in which case they'd be fantastic as 2p. Taking back that story.
This means war. This means war.
Keeping on going around the circuit. So Tamsin, is it paratrooper week, or are we still?
Not. It's still being the 6 mil.
Still 6 mil. This is frightening because this is going to give us a standard to look for with these 10 mil.
Last week I'd finished the mounted Confederates, and since we did the last recording, painted up sort of dismounted cavalry, horse holders, some artillery, and some limbers.
Really tiny.
And I've started on horses, some limber horses for dismounted cavalry stands, and also some horse casualties.
So are those limbers, a one piece with the limber and the horses then?
No.
Don't let the jockey club find out.
It's separate limber, and then you got the limber horses come in sort of groups of 3. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Because it looked like on that earlier picture, you painted your limbers sort of a pale grey.
It's a pale green.
Pale green, I was going to say, because mine are green as well. So I think I did spurious, superficial research. Did you look into what type of colour it should be?
Yeah, it should be a sort of. The limber colour should be a sort of greenish grey colour. Because they used to make it the artillery paint they used to mix yellow ochre with soot.
Right. Okay.
To get the colour, and when you mix in soot with yellow ochre, you get a sort of greenish grey colour.
Did you use Vallejo soot, or did you use coat to arms soot when you were mixing it in with the
No, I used sort of Vallejo green grey with a bit of, I think it was pale blue green mixed in.
So there was a wet palette moment involved in doing that.
No, not a wet palette.
Not a wet palette.
Yeah.
Just mixed
Hamden, if you want some soot, I do actually have a coal burning chimney, so I could post some if you like.
No, you're fine.
You've got to use American wood though to get the right colour, don't you?
Yeah, carve the limbers out of American wood in 6 mil scale,
and then set fire to them.
So, come on, scare me. How many different shading techniques did you use on the 6 mil?
I don't.
Ray.
So
your 6 mil is the equivalent of my 15 then?
The horses, base coat and wash, and then detailing. The human.
So what do you mean by detailing on the 6 mil?
On the 6 mil, on the horses, that'll be sort of for the bay horses, either black bits, either white face and leg mark.
And Tamsin, what do you mean by base coat and wash?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the wash sounds suspiciously like you're doing some shading.
Only on the horses.
Oh, so you only do the one coat of shading on the 6 mil, is what you're saying?
On the horses, I don't do the shading on the humans.
Okay.
No, she paints the faces on the humans.
Yeah, they're contrast painted with layers, highlights, lighting, and everything else.
No, but she's got it set up so all the lighting comes from one direction.
And I know who goes more than sort of base, wash, and highlight is Michael Stocking, who used to run Angel Barracks.
Oh wow! Yes, yeah.
And I think he posted. I remember seeing a photo he posted. It sort of the detail that he used to paint on 6 mil Napoleonic hussars. He had the bloody brass buttons going down the leggings.
That can't be real, can it? That can't be. They must have blown. Maybe he did them as 3D renders and shrunk them down. But
it's not bloody sane, anyhow.
Not bloody sane. Although I did find out, possibly I might have accidentally stumbled across this week a way of testing how good anybody is at painting faces on figures. So I don't know if anybody's seen on the internet that that new site that creates moving video clips out of still pictures. It's there's like a genealogy site that is using this as a marketing gimmick, and you upload a picture of one of your ancestors to it, and they animate it, and it's using kind of very basic deep fake AI stuff to do so. But it is a little bit weird, and it's kind of convincing. So, of course, I thought, can I upload a picture of the Hannibal figure that I used for Hannibal in Madaxeman to get kind of an animated, really moving live one? But the painting on that wasn't good enough, which was annoying. So I tried a few more pictures that I had, and I suppose it has not to do not painting eyes on figures, but I did have a picture of. I think it was a Wallenstein figure from Warlord Games, and I've got that figure, but it's not painted up quite as well as the one on the Warlord site. So I used the picture from Warlord Games site of their mounted Wallenstein, and it's bloody weird. I've now got a 12-second video clip of Wallenstein, the figure, kind of, but he's alive, and it's just kind of the oddest thing going.
You need to pop it up on screen for us.
No, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I've got to try and find that. Just find out where I put it in the here. Obviously, I'll try and let's just have a dig it out.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
But carrying on. So that's the painting I've done. I've sort of the horses. I started them on Sunday, but I had my COVID jab on Sunday.
It's weird.
What about this?
That is freaky.
Isn't that the weirdest thing in the world?
That's just wrong.
That's just completely wrong. But
we've been expecting you, Mr. Bond.
But that's a 28mm figure that's been.
But the eyes don't look right because normal.
Because it's a 28mm figure. That's
the
why
eyes are looking in different directions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course the eyes don't look right. It's a 28mm
the irises are completely different sizes. You can see that there, and also different height on the figure.
But as Mr. Porter said, it's a bloody 28mm
figure.
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
That's just astounding. And this,
but scary.
I think, where is it?
Yeah,
this is the picture that I was just to quickly show you the picture that I was using.
Hannibal.
The share. No, the one. If I can try and find the one that I used as the original, wherever it's gone. Yeah, that was the original picture, and that turned into that kind of deep fake video.
This could be a whole new game, this, couldn't it?
It
definitely. A lot of like statues and
yeah, there's statues and things like that. People have animated statues and things, but yeah, it is just kind of weird. But and I'm sure there'll be more of it. 3D printing. That's just the light version of this. This is when the figures actually start moving and talking to you. That's when it gets kind of completely weird.
So hang on, your figures don't talk to you already?
No, it's the ones I don't own that send me messages over the internet saying, buy me, rescue me from this horrendous manufacturer. I need to be in your set.
I thought it was last time you were having that dodgy red wine, the figures start talking to you.
Yeah. No, I think we nixed going back to that restaurant again, though, didn't we, last week? That one that one got stopped in quite short order. So, all right then. So
anyway, yeah. Going back to winding back a minute or so. Had my COVID jab on Sunday, and yesterday sort of left arm was a bit sore, too sore. I couldn't really lift.
Go ahead.
No painting.
Hold on to the painting sticks, so didn't get any done yesterday. Was able to get a bit more done on the horses today, so got the black markings done.
So actually, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 of us then have been jabbed. I think Adam and Simon, you're just the last 2, or the youngest 2, quite possibly.
Yeah, I'm in the far too young category.
Yep.
Well, for me, it's odd because I am sort of like far younger and more handsome and vigorous than most of the people. on this podcast. But so I'm because at the moment they're saying they're doing 58s and above to 60s, and I'm actually well below that age group. But I got a text a few days ago from my GP saying you've been invited in for a thingy. So I'm being jabbed on Saturday.
Oh,
so the COVID business must be quite slow in Bournemouth at the moment because I'm being dumb.
Yeah.
Well, they've run out of old people, obviously.
Maybe there's a big cohort gap between the very old people and the very
but
the much
Bournemouth it goes from like 80 to suddenly Adam's age. You know, it's like they skipped several.
There's no one in the middle.
What you mean, 80 to 20?
No, much.
Yeah,
that'll be the one. Something like it. Okay, all right. So Tamsin, so you've got that done. That gave you a day's painting, and so but you've still not bitten the bullet and started basing all of these, or have you still got another tranche of 6mm to do?
There's some human casualties, some gabions, and some cannonball piles.
Okay. And what have you thought about what shade of black you're going to use for the cannonballs?
It'll be black.
Black.
I dry brushed with gunmetal.
Right. Okay then. So Dave, that's disappointing to you. Then I'm sure you were hoping for more shades of different black that somebody could give you a tip about buying. You must be gutted.
There's never enough black.
There's never enough black. All right. Okay. And then let's keep going around. Andy, what about you? What's been on your skeletal painting pile? Are you down to the bare bones of finishing off that army? Or is there any other pun that I haven't really thought of so far that you've probably been planning for the last fortnight to deploy?
No, because you obviously weren't paying attention because I finished the skeletons last.
Oh, you did? Yes, true. Yeah.
So I'm now on to various bits, including the Thracian cavalry. So I've got to wait until you finish your Thracian cavalry and then find out how you paint the things properly.
Hmm.
So that's partly what I'm doing. So I'm doing a whole mishmash of what do you call them? Museum figures. So I've got a unit of hoplites, a unit of Indian swordsmen, and the rest of it is their Greek cavalry. And I'm just sort of undercoating and doing sort of preparing most of that stuff at the moment, and I'll gradually start filling in the bits. And by the end of it, I'll have about 6 units of cavalry and 2 of infantry. And then it's on to another major project, which I haven't yet decided which one it's going to be.
So how are you finding those new museum ones then?
Yeah, they're nice. I mean, I haven't done too much detail yet, so I'm not really in a position to judge. But I like the size and the proportion of it. I do take a point about they're very narrow and within the width of the horse, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
Hmm. No, it's a decent.
I've got a few of them. I've got one based at Scythians, and it's interesting that they are firing their arrows dead straight ahead.
Yeah.
Or up in the air in the case of doing them.
Yeah. Oh, they're kind of cute figures. Okay, all right. Just trying to think if there's anything else been going on.
I did have a go at O Group. I set it up on the table and tried to play around with it, and didn't actually get that far with it. It's the kind of thing that I need to go back and read the rules again and wrap my head around what I did right, what I did wrong. And then I wasn't too clear in some places. I tried the scenario that comes with the book, the Normandy one they give you at the end of the book, and it wasn't clear to me where you had this German machine gun platoon. Could you split it up into separate sections, or was it tied to one company? I didn't find that very clear, so that kind of confused me a bit.
I think I support heavy weapon platoons. You can either keep them together or you can separate them out into sections.
Yeah, but what I wasn't clear was where it appeared in the order of battle. Was it part of a company or was it part of the entire battalion?
Oh, right, yeah.
If you look at the way it's set out, I assumed it was one composite platoon, and since each base of a medium machine gun has got 6 dice, when it was shooting, I assumed it fired 12 dice at its target, which seems somewhat hefty and dangerous.
Depends which army. I don't know about O Group, but different armies had different ones for heavy machine guns.
Well, these kind of medium machine guns, these German, they're kind of MG42s or 34s on a tripod, firing out of an upstairs window.
Oh, that's normally company based then, because they're usually based up as a heavy weapons platoon.
Yeah.
platoon.
In terms of the order of battle, just looking at the scenario, so you've got 1 company, 2 company, 3 company, which tells you what bows you've got. Then you've got MG platoon.
Yeah.
So it's separate from the companies.
So that's not part of 3 companies. It's just like a battalion asset. But
No, you have as part of battalion groups, you have a heavy weapons platoon.
Battalion asset.
Right. Okay. So I could have put one section with different companies if I wanted.
Okay.
Yes, you could.
Yeah,
but then
I was chatting about.
You also have the Kampfgruppe, the mixed groups as well. So later on, they had very much, grab what you can, and you have mixed groups set up of both Panzer Grenadiers, tanks, anti-tanks, etc., with much more mixed and not under a fixed order of battle.
Well, no, the Germans are more flexible in terms of the reserve guys, which are sort of off the table. You can bring them on and attach them to any company in your battalion, and the same with Americans. Whereas British, you have to define your reserves as to who they're coming on with.
Yeah, I was chatting to a mate of mine who lives in Thailand about it, and he was saying that whole thing that was my pseudo whinge last week, or half-hearted whinge of you have to actually write down the orders in a game called Orders Group, and he said they'd already looked at that and thought the solution to that is just to do a rough sketch map of the table and overlay a very simple kind of 4x4 or 5x4 grid on it, and then mark the grid squares to say you're here, or the ambush is here, or something is it, and then that actually that took away all that. Well, it's sort of along the road and a bit, it's like it's in that square and that's where it is. It just kind of automates it a bit, makes it a little bit more tick box for more formulaic war games like me with dreadful handwriting who have forgotten how to do all that sort of stuff. I think also someone said there was issues about how the information about tanks is spread all throughout the different rules, but people are already pulling that together into a database and spreadsheets and things like that too.
Yeah. So I'd give it another go, having read the rules, to sort of work out what I think I was doing. But it looks potentially promising.
Good. Okay. Well, look, that's interesting.
Tim, you said about lists. Was it Martin from Vexilia? Didn't he do some lists for ADLG or something?
No, he's done a new version of the Army List Builder spreadsheet in Google Docs, I think, with more of the options pre-populated about what allies are possible and what the terrain is and things in different date lines. So it's a lot of it's pre-pop, and I think Kevin Johnson's been helping, and a couple of other people had some input in to kind of tighten that up, because I think the one on the website's got it's not quite, it works, but I think sort of it could be better. But I've also got a sneaking suspicion that Martin may not have realised that Little Army Designer website still exists, and it was just the domain that had gone. But again, there's all sorts of people prefer different ways of pulling together those lists when they're planning for competitions. But maybe before we start talking too much about competitions, that maybe actually leads us on almost inexorably to finish the what have you painted section this week, and then move on to our new increasingly popular and increasingly commented upon feature. And we will sit back and roll the theme music for I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. Coming up next on Madaxeman Radio, it's I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse, the antidote to informed discussion shows. At the piano this week is Scott Joplin, and your chairman is Sir Humphrey Humphreyson. Hello and welcome everybody to this week's edition of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. You join us this week from the Philip Barker Resonance Assembly Hall in Upton Snodsbury in rural Worcestershire, just a few miles down the road from North Piddle. Located here in the heart of England, visitors who climb to the top of a nearby hill are greeted with a view covering 7 different counties, and on a clear day it is said you can sometimes even catch a sight of Birmingham off in the distance, despite the many prominent warning signs advising against this. So look, we're here in this glorious location for our episode of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse this week. And by, I think it must be said, popular demand, we are going to yet again yield the Zoom floor, the podcast terrain, to Mr. Adam to just tease us, tell us what your theory, what you're looking to expound this week in your analysis of the world of wargaming.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I just check, when you say by popular demand, do you mean by 2 people commenting?
I think it's 2. Yes, I think it's 2. But given that the feedback that we get for this, that's pretty spectacular.
It might even be
3, more than anything else in history. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, because when we were talking last week, Tim, I remember Tim mentioning that sort of like when you talk about on wargaming on thread, someone's always mentions that competition gamers are like evil. And it's not only that, it's Martin, Mr. Vilexia, he wrote quite a complimentary review of this podcast. Thank you very much, Martin. But he said 2 things that I thought, ooh. One was, they're all from central London, but don't let that put you off. And I thought, bit cheeky, you know what I mean? It's like we're doing our best to bring style and class to the wargaming world. So like having a go at us for being from London. And the other thing he said was, they're all competition wargamers, and don't let that put you off. And again, I thought, And the other thing is, I remember from years, like decades ago, there was a magazine, I think it might have been Practical Wargamer. And do you know, every now and then in war games, you get wargame magazines, you get the article of what is wargaming, and it's all this sort of like thing about there's different eras and it's ancient and medieval and blah blah blah, and there's different scales, even though they're not bloody scales, but we won't go there today. And he sort of said that sort of competition wargamers are horrible, and he sort of said a couple of offhand comments, and at the end of the article it said something like, so whatever you do, wargaming, I hope you really enjoy it, apart from you competition wargamers. And I thought that's a bit harsh. So I was going to sort of like talk about why people are so offish to people that go to competitions. But then I thought, as a sort of like trying to get people on the podcast to vote for what I say, as you're all competition wargamers, I thought that would be quite easy to get you to vote for me. And I also thought that there must be something in it. If there is this whole perception in the majority of the wargaming world that people do competitions are, to be frank, a bunch of tossers, that perception has got to come from somewhere. And then I thought about most of the people I've met at competitions, and I thought, yeah, fair enough, actually. So
what
I thought what I would do is I would talk about competition wargamers and their faults and what's wrong with it. Okay, now I'm not just going to have a go, because you know me, I'm a helpful chap, I'm not rude, I don't like to sort of like insult people. So I thought instead I would sort of like do it as advice for competition wargamers. Okay,
this is sort of an agony Adam sort of cross.
Exactly that. And then you can decide whether my advice is any good or whether I'm an arse. Okay, but before I go into that, I would just like to say about competition wargaming one thing, that I know there's a lot of negativity in the wargaming world about it, but I would just like to say I've been doing competition wargaming now for decades, and this is genuine, I'm not even being sarcastic. It's enriched my life. And it's not so much the games I've played, but it's more the people I've met. I mean, look at the people on this podcast. This is a correct collection of people that would never come together, usually. We would just never meet. We would never be in the same places. But I've met you all for doing wargaming.
Certainly not without police involvement, really. Yeah.
Well, yeah, precisely. And I've met lots of lovely people doing war games. I've even met northern people that I've actually quite liked, which is like a bit of a I know, but it's like true. Okay,
I noticed you're not mentioning the Southwest there, though.
Well, you are. I've even met an Australian that I didn't find made me feel physically sort of like ill by being in their presence. So it's not all bad. And I've had wonderful times doing war games. Some of you have done some of these things with me, and some of you have done other things. But it's like going to Bath and having a tapas bar saying they are staying open because we turn up. I mean, that was lovely. Going to Italy and going to a nightclub that had the decor of a posh toilet and there were lots of breakdancing and the bouncers refused us exit. I'm still not sure what was going on there, but I've had a fun time in my life with doing competition war games. So everything I'm about to say doesn't apply to everything and everyone, but I would like to say, if it applies to you, all I'm doing is holding up a mirror. And if you don't like the reflection, nothing to do with me. Don't blame the mirror for the reflection. Okay.
Are we before that, on a technicality, are we sure that many war gamers actually do own mirrors at all? You know.
Well, no, I don't think they do. They certainly don't own a mechanism to self-reflect. Yes. So I'm just giving them
mirrors. They've got to check the line of sight.
I'm just giving them that opportunity, okay? And I don't want them to be angry at me for giving them an opportunity to grow as a person, okay?
Self-reflecting on their behalf. I get it, yeah.
Exactly. So the first piece of advice, all the advice I've given a title, right? And the first piece of advice is, it's not the dice, it's you, okay? First piece of advice. Now, quite often when I play someone in competition and war game, at the end of the game, if I win, they'll be on the other side of the table and say, oh, I was really unlucky with the dice. Now, when people say this to me, I always agree with them for two reasons. Firstly, all the time they think that, they're going to carry on being the mediocre player they undoubtedly are. And if I play them again, it will be another easy win, okay? And the second reason I agree with them is I've got a policy of not arguing with idiots.
You're starting the psychological warfare early. You know, you're pre-laying the psychological warfare for next time you play it. And that's already...
Peter, I understand, okay? But if you see yourself in the mirror, nothing to do with me, okay?
No, it's the dice bit. It's the dice bit where people defeating themselves by the dice bit. Because I've sat next to you in a competition and I've heard someone saying that to you and just seen you just go quiet and just drink your pint and just go, yeah, okay, no problem.
Yeah, no, and I've just told you what. Now, I will say that it is possible to have a game that you lose on the dice. Okay, you can have one of those games, but those games might happen 1 in 10, 1 in 20 times. And remember, you'll get just as many games where you only throw 5s and 6s as you only throw 1s and 2s. Okay, now, in competitions, you tend to, no matter the rule set, you tend to get the same people usually winning or coming in the top 5. Yeah. And they don't keep coming in the top 5 because the universe is out to get you. Okay. They keep coming in the top 5 because they're good at playing this bloody game and you're not. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to go away, stop blaming the dice and thinking about how you're playing the game. Because sometimes you get people saying, oh, well, I haven't been lucky overall, but there was just a couple of dice rolls that I was really unlucky. Okay, that might be true. But if you've got a plan to win a game that relies on getting lucky in a couple of dice rolls, you can't be upset if it doesn't come off 50% of the time. And if your plan is to get lucky 50% of the time, you're going to come halfway up the table at the end of the competition. So it's not the dice. You're also going to
be very disappointed in most nightclubs and bars, aren't you? Yeah.
It's not the dice, okay? You need to look to yourself, okay? It's not you. Now, the second piece of advice, which is kind of linked to it's not the dice as you, I've entitled, Stop Whining, You Big Pathetic Baby, okay? Because quite often, when people think they're losing because of the dice, they'll sort of like go on about it. And I'm really not kind of interested, okay? And there's one of two ways that they can whine about it, either because the dice haven't been bad for them and they're just blaming the dice, and I refer the honourable gentleman to the answer I gave some moments ago, or you have got one of those games where you've got really bad dice and it has genuinely gone wrong for you. But I would still say, stop whining, you big pathetic baby, okay? Save it until the end of the game, where you can go to the creche with everybody else that's got the emotional range of a toddler and you can whine about it there, because I'm not interested. Right. What you should do when you get one of those games is, Tim, do you remember that game at Burton one time and we had the samurai and we just got trampled by a load of elephants?
Yes,
Now,
absolutely. Yes, I
that
remember that very
was one
vividly.
of those 1 in 10, 1 in 20 games where it's like the first clash, and I remember you had 6 combats in a row that you threw 1 or 2, and you just took all your toys off.
Yep.
And
Hang on, you're blaming the dice now. You spent 10
no,
minutes
I've said
saying,
no,
"Don't blame
wait.
the dice."
I've
And
said
now you're blaming the dice.
no. I said that
Apart from this game, of course.
1 in
Oh,
10.
it's this game.
It's the problem.
1 in
He's
10,
just
1
a
in 20
typical competition
games.
gamer, isn't he? Yeah, he's a typical
Yeah,
competition
yeah.
gamer. It's all coming out now.
1 in 10, 1 in 20 games, it happens, okay? And the way that me and Tim dealt with it is how you should deal with it, okay? What we did is we mentioned a couple of times, oh, bloody hell, that was rubbish, wasn't it? And our opponents went, yeah, you had really unlucky dice then. And then we carried on playing the game, okay? And we pulled it back a little bit, but we got beat because we were too far behind the game. Okay, we took our beating like adults, and we congratulated our opponents, and then we left. Now, on the
Then
journey
you crushed
home,
Kevin and me in the
Oh,
next
that
game.
journey home was dreadful. You were just whinging all the way. It was outrageous. Yeah.
on the journey home,
Yeah.
we just whinged like a pair of 8-year-old girls whose parents wouldn't let them play Roblox.
Yes.
But it must be said, a BMW is suspiciously like an affluent middle-aged man's version of a crash on wheels.
Right.
So as I say, it's like we whinged about it, but that was between consenting adults. Okay, and if it's between consenting adults, that's fine. Because if you moan about your dice, or if you moan about anything, the matchup or the terrain in the game, what you're saying to your opponent is 2 things. Firstly, you're saying you don't deserve to win. Okay, and that's out of order because they're there, they're doing their best, they're playing, and if they beat you, they deserve to beat you. And saying to somebody, the universe is against me, you didn't deserve to win, is actually out of order. And the second thing that you're doing is you're just making this noise. I'm trying to have a game. I don't want this noise in the background. Okay, so if you continue to do that with me when I'm playing you, I'm going to introduce you to my other hobby. Okay, and my other hobby is baking. Okay, because if you continue to do that to me, I've baked you some really nice and tasty shut the fuck up cakes. Okay, you can have as many as you need because I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Okay, so second piece of advice, stop whining. Okay, third piece of advice, have a shower. Okay, or a bath.
Come on, this is a step too far, Adam. Really, even this is meant to be a comedy feature. Surely, we're now getting into the realms of the ridiculous.
As I said, it's advice. Have a shower or a bath. Now, I would say, and this is by no means everybody that attends war games competitions. And I was going to say, if it's you, you know it's you, but you probably don't. Okay, so I'm going to give you some advice of how to deal with this when you go to a war games competition or in life in general. Okay. Here's some general advice that will see you good. It doesn't apply in every situation, but it'll apply at a war games competition to keep you on the right side of honking. Okay. Ask yourself this question. Have I had a shower or bath in the last 24 hours? If the answer is yes, you're probably all right. If the answer is no, that needs to start working its way to the top of your priority list with increasing urgency. Okay. So just ask yourself that question. And if you get the answer no, act on it. Okay? Simple. That one was simple.
This means war. This means war.
The next one, and this is the core of it. This is a core of why people don't like competition players. So, and if it's you, you probably don't even know it's you. Okay, this is the Dunning-Kruger effect writ large. Okay, this is where it is, and I've either going to entitle this one, if your positive self-image relies on you winning a game of toy soldiers, you need another hobby. Or if winning the competition is if winning the game is the most important thing to you when you're playing the game, you need another bloody hobby. Okay. Now, this carries a multitude of sins, and it's mainly people that are fixated with winning and don't care about any other things. Okay. And this is why people think competition gamers are actually a bunch of tosses. And it can be very many things. It can be from the small to the really large. It can be, oh, I'm going to apply different standards to my play to yours. So if you're measuring, I'm going to watch you like a hawk. But if I'm moving my troops, oh, that's gone slightly too far. Okay. And all these have happened to me as an opponent. I've seen people do all these. Okay. Oh, I've gone slightly too, oh, did I? Oh, sorry. Rules interpretation. Some people, and I've had this, trying to get away with not playing by the rules. And when I pull them up on it, they go, oh, really? I didn't realise. And it's like, yes, you did. I've seen you playing this game for years. You realise and you're just trying to pull a fast one. And I've got no respect for you. All the way up to, I've seen people, when it's, I've looked at a table and thought, yeah, you're screwed, mate. I'm going to win this in the next 2 moves. And I remember an example playing in Italy, and this is back when fags were cool, okay, or cigarettes for our American listener. I looked at the table and thought, I am all over you. You're done, okay? I'm going to go and have a fag. You can do what you want because you've lost. So I went out for a cigarette, smoking my cigarette, came back in, and the troops were actually in different places. And I went, hang on. Oh no, I moved it there. And it's like, no, there's no way it could have. I won't go into the details of DBM, but it's like, no, there's no way that could have. It's, oh no, it was because it was like this. And I looked at them, and what can you say? I just looked at them and thought, you're a cheating bastard. But there's nothing you can do. I've had games where after deployment, I remember a game with Martin when we were playing doubles. We put the toys on the table and you look at it and you go, we've won this game. There's no way we can lose this game because they've deployed really badly. We've deployed really well. Done deal. And in 3.5 hours, we did about 4 moves because they took about 45, 50 minutes for each of their moves because they knew they'd lost. And it's just like, if you're losing, you've got to give your opponent a chance to get the victory. I remember a game I played with Dave. He was beating me and I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? And I made sure that I moved quick enough so he could get one more move in to go for the win. Now, as it happened, the dice didn't come off and we got a draw and that's fine. But it's winning isn't that important. So yeah, don't worry, Dave. So winning isn't that important, okay? What's important is just like having a fun time. So, another piece of advice I would like to give, and this is a more personal piece of advice. That's the global stuff, okay? That's the important stuff. And if I've been talking to you, right, you need to look at that. Now, quite often, people who are childish enough to think playing toy soldiers is an important thing don't realise that it's them. Again, it's a Dunning-Kruger effect. So I would urge everyone to sometimes try and step outside of where they are and look at themselves objectively. Because quite often, guys, you look like a bit of a twat and you need to sort of like sort it out. Now, the thing is, I have caught myself being caught up in this sort of like a rules argument. You go, but I try to have some self-awareness and it's like, oh, is it important? No, it's not. I'll still argue for a bit, but it's like, I don't really care. So that's important stuff. If you want more people to play competitions, just chill out, guys, actually. But the last piece of advice is like more personal advice, okay? It comes from a more personal place, and it's this. Try and acknowledge people, okay? Try and acknowledge people, try and know their names. And the reason why this is a personal thing is my boy was born about 11 years ago, and I stopped going to competitions largely when I had children because I just didn't have the time. And I've been going more and more as I've been getting older. But I still don't go a huge amount. But if I go and do a doubles game, I quite often play with Tim. Now, I am genuinely grateful that I get to play with a wargaming superstar like Tim, Madaxeman, Porter. Okay, How can I be more genuinely sarcastic than that? Okay, I'm genuinely grateful that I can ride on Tim's popular coattails. Okay, but I would just like to say, our team isn't Tim and that bloke playing with Tim. Okay,
I think I might have to correct you on that one, but
you can shut up.
Yeah. Well, the team is Adam and that bloke playing with him.
Yeah.
No, because nobody knows my name. Nobody knows it. Everyone knows Tim. Even to the point of sort of like we finished the game at lunch. Someone's come over to me, and me and Tim are playing in doubles team. They've come over to me and said, "Oh, how's Tim doing in the competition?" And it's like, and I've had to say, well, he's actually playing quite poorly, and I've had to sort of like drag him along. So he won the last game. It's like, my name's Adam. I am on a journey to become a fully self-actualized person, okay? And trying to suggest that I don't exist, I find hurtful. It hurts me. Okay?
It's just because you got your sidekick badge.
Yeah, being a sidekick
actually,
just
because of that.
Surely.
We're going to have to call you
You're the Robin to his
now.
Batman, basically.
Well, I'm not, okay? I'm not, but
It's only because she won't wear the outfit.
Which is why I'm bloody annoyed, okay?
No,
I'm the
what
daddy,
Valio
I've got a
Yellow
t-shirt.
would that be, Tamsin?
Yeah.
So, my last piece of advice, and this is really
Jungle
important,
Girl.
okay? My last piece of advice, this is really important. If you're at a competition and you meet me, buy me a beer, okay? It's good advice, sir. Now, if you are one of the tossers that I've been talking about, I probably won't like you anymore for it, but I promise to try and pretend that I do, okay?
Because you've got a beer.
Yeah.
Buy me a beer, yeah. So, that's my advice for competition wargamers.
This means war. This means war.
Can I make a few observations? First one is that I agree with you to some extent. I think that when you're playing a game, the result needs to be important. Otherwise, what's the point of playing? But the minute it's over and you shake hands with your opponent and say, thanks, well played, you move on. But at the time you play, you've got to play with a certain degree of intensity. Otherwise, there's no point in playing.
Oh, I've got no problem playing to win. That's the point. It's like saying I only play chess because I like social. No, just don't play then. Do something else. If you don't want to be competitive, if you don't want to try and win, go and bake.
No, but say once the game's over, that's it. You move on. I quite agree. I mean, you and I had a cracking game at Bournemouth when we were both top of the list about a year ago. And you narrowly won that one. But that was a good game because I was in a chance of winning. I didn't win, but things have gone slightly different. I would have done. But either way,
worry,
it was a good
Andy,
game.
I agree with you. Right, you were unlucky on the dice.
Yeah, but I'm not moaning about it. I didn't even mention the dice, did I?
Yeah, see, 2 years ago, you missed a couple of others.
You're bringing
Simon
it up now.
particularly loves corner
just for academic purposes, aren't you? 2 years later, for sure.
No, I'm making the point that we had a game I lost, but it was an enjoyable game.
I'm pointing out competition wargamers can actually be quite difficult, and I'm just giving them advice. And this, if you want to sell competition wargamers have got to up their social game. To be perfect.
I actually think that there was a perception of competition wargamers being a bit arsey in the past. But I think, particularly with what we do, and this is going to sound very self-centered, I think we've all lightened up a lot.
But I think, Adam, that what you're saying there, or what it sounds like, is you're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill of problems that have sort of gone away because we're all just older, really. And I think a lot of people have actually learned not to be arseholes over the last few years. I think a few years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it got too intense. I think there was a whole culture of
rankings.
I think, there was a whole thing about rankings were taken seriously, and then there was like a national competition that you had to qualify to get into this, and I think the whole culture of the way it was set up with if you got in the top 6, the top 10, you then got to this other competition and the rest of it. There was a culture being created, actively created, that drew in people who took it seriously. And I think a lot of the people were just younger and newer to it. And now I think people are just a bit played out. Particularly, I think with DBM, there was a huge influx of new people to a competition circuit that never really existed. And it was everybody's first experience of competition, and nobody really knew how to do it. And because it said the word competition, people kind of were like, oh, I've got to be competitive. And the whole system was sort of set up to focus on those results and that sort of thing. Whereas nowadays, now that everything, particularly in ancients, is very fragmented, you're only playing in a smaller pool of people, and we've all been playing for 30 years. So we're just not that fussed anymore. There's so
I think that's true. But again, you're talking about your ADLG ADLG scene. I think there are other competitions because people do play other games competitively as well. It's like there's sort of like not Wings of the what's the Star Wars one?
I remember seeing the Flames of War stuff again on the Worlds, and that was hilarious because I think a couple of guys were speaking to one of the teams because it was teams multiplay, and they said, "Oh, do you guys regularly play with each other?" No, we all hate each other, and this is all in the same team, but we're all the best players in that so and so country, and it was just surreal. We're sat there having a beer, having a bit of a laugh, and it was a very different scene. They had spotters going on to look at the next table and everything else. It was just
this was the competition we went to in Salamanca. So we had it was ADLG, Flames of War, and there might have been some Warhammer games. And we were fascinated by the sheer level of, I'd put the terms loosely, professionalism or focus that these Flames of War teams were having. So they had, there's a couple of teams from Australia and New Zealand who'd flown over, there's a team member for each period, because you had the 3 or 4 periods of World War II. Then you had a spotter, a ref, a coach. Regretfully, a couple of ladies who looked very, very fine, but, their whole job was to distract part of the audience. You're thinking, hang on, you are basically just running around, pushing little tanks going pew, pew, and something explodes. And then we all went to tapas that evening. You think, has something gone a bit wrong? It was hilarious watching it. Just to think, you've flown halfway around the world and you don't even like dealing with the person you're with. I mean, I'm not going to fly 30 hours on a flight just to play a game with a knob.
See, and there, the competition war gamers, they give competition war gamers a bad name. And the problem is, I think you're right, Dave and Tim. I think you're both right in ADLG. I think we've got older. I think we just don't care anymore, to be honest. We're just sort of like more laid back. But
we like winning, though. But it's
we try to win.
The style of it as well.
Care if you too much finish.
Quick comment.
Wait. We're just a very small segment of the competition scene, and there's still the perception that competition war gamers are tossers, and that must come from somewhere.
Quick comment. In Salamanca, they kept stealing our chairs. Those bloody Flames of War. we had to guard our own chairs.
Actually, we did. No, but I think those are people of. That's interesting. But they're people of the same age and the same, peer group. I knew some of them from other competitions. But the way that competition circuit is organised domestically and internationally either creates or attracts extremely competitive people, whereas I think it's based on the
Warhammer model.
It's based on the Warhammer model, but I think it's down to the people running events to create a culture of, we're here to say that, oh, your toys are interesting, let's have a good game, and the key outcome is to have a good game and leave the person on the other side of the table thinking you're a nice guy.
And that's a bit of give and take, isn't it? It's part of the people creating it, then it's people turn up.
It's a social contract, isn't it? Yeah.
But I just remember, competition war gaming can be done well, follow my advice, or it can be done badly. And I think overwhelmingly still it must be done badly because of the perception outside competition war gaming of what it's like. And I just remember when we were playing DBM and it got over competitive. I remember when we were playing in Italy, and it was sort of like we had the morning game, we were having lunch, and we asked the Italian organizer when the afternoon game started, and he just looked at us and said, "When lunch is over," and shrugged and walked off. And I thought, that's exactly the correct attitude. Yeah. Okay,
that's what it was like when we were playing in Rome. It was hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
A couple of years back, it was great.
So the Italians do it well, but that's actually quite rare, at least in England. And I've been to competitions in the US, it's all the US and other European countries, and there is still too much of the over competitiveness, I feel.
But I still think that comes down to whoever's organising the competition to consciously take that decision to try and set the tone and do it. And I think also what you were saying about it must still be going on. I think it's going on a lot less, but the people who whinge about it online are people who go, I went to, inevitably competition war games dreadful is followed by, I went to a competition once 30 years ago, I'm never going back. It's not, I went to one 2 weeks ago and I'm never going back.
So you're saying it's changed and the perception hasn't changed?
I think it's changed for the better. It's still got pockets. over competitiveness. But I think because it's now more fragmented, and I think a lot more people are conscious of it, and a lot more people are just older. You know, you've got the fragmentation means it's not such a big thing. A bigger percentage of the competition circuit is not organized in a way which engenders hyper competitiveness.
I agree.
You know, it's just structured differently.
There's also
and so people are older.
Yeah, so some people also see it as I mean, even at our club, you know, we've got a lot of, you know, competitive war gamers, but some people don't like playing in competitions because they prefer to have, say, a historical opponent, or they're not really into sort of the min-maxing stuff that, you know, I've been in the club when we've been talking about it, and some people have like taken a step back and gone, look, okay, that's a bit too much min-maxing and everything else. I just like to play my game and everything else. And fine, I'm not stressed. That's why we sometimes do the one-dayers, because it just takes the stress off. And some of our more, you know, people like myself and some of the others who go on the competitive scene a fair bit, we just take along an odd army just to give it a go and see what it's like to try out something different, and pull in a lot of people who don't usually do competitive wargaming.
But if
So
you think,
you know,
competition wargaming's changed that much, when they start up again and go to a big competition, walk around and sniff the air, and I think you'll find the smell's telling you that some things haven't changed.
Adam, that's part of lockdown, mate. You know,
Yeah.
that's a different matter.
Yeah, I think our standards for personal hygiene have just all completely changed anyway. You know, we're not going to have been in the same room with anybody who we're not related to for 9 months. So, you know, that's going to be a real shock to all of us, really. It's
But I've got an excuse for the hand cleanser now.
Yeah, no one's been able to go out and buy a new pair of jeans since, you know, 2019. It's just going to be shameful, really.
What are jeans? There's only tracksuit pants, isn't there?
Yeah, and no one's going to have got a new Heavy Metal Tour t-shirt either.
I came back to this competition. I came back to wargaming full stop 10 years ago with the express purpose that playing competition was what we're going to do till I drop dead. Now, I think it takes 4 years probably of playing competition inside out before you get competent enough to actually play. So there is a major investment of time and effort to become a competition player. If you can get past that, it's worth it because it's a really great hobby. But then I think in that time period, it's changed from that, as Adam was saying, the DBM model of the ultra competitive ranking, things like that. It's then splintered a bit. Fog was very competitive. A great 8 years of my life playing Fog, loved it to bits, but it became very samey with everybody showing up the same army. Now it has loosened up and it's become quite fun to just show up with a different army. And because the rule set that we all play in ADLG has got a fair amount of luck, things throw up. So you get people who don't consider themselves very good doing really well in competitions occasionally.
I disagree, Dave. I don't think all war games got a fair amount of luck, or if it uses dice, it does. But again, ADLG, if you look at the people that come top of the table in every competition, it's like Gordon keeps coming in the top 3. If it was luck,
comes pretty low, quite.
He has some pretty ropey results as well. But I still think there's a theory that the people who are whinging about competitions are doing so on the basis of 2 things. I think one is they're always saying 25 years ago, and I'm never doing it. And secondly, because they're people who only ever play at home with a group of 3 of their mates that they went to school with, and that's the only 3 people they've ever wargamed with, they lack the social skills to form the social contract of, I'm going to sit and play opposite a complete stranger and play a game with you within the context of a framework of rules. And we're both going to balance playing the game to win and not being assholes. And just having a social contract to say, we're building a game that we're trying to, play to win, but play it fair. And, you know, in the same way, rugby will, textbook, they'll beat crap out of each other on the pitch and then have a pint afterwards and not fight in the bar. There's that element about war games as well, and I think actually your people who whinge about it lack that rugby players mentality to sit down afterwards and go, yeah, we both went for that, didn't we? But you know, that was still good. They don't have the social skills to do that that kind of weird social contract thing because they've only ever met 3 people.
Can I just check, Tim? Are you saying that most competition war gamers do have social skills?
I think they have a lot more social skills than someone who only does a scenario who's built a 1/56 scale replica of the Battle of Brandywine in their triple garage in in a shed in deepest, darkest Kent that they're making with drop cast 56mm figures that they've hand carved themselves out of donkey droppings, and that everybody at their club, which is only 6 people because they've never actually met anybody else, are all doing that. And then, you know, one time they keep talking about going to take it to Salute as a demo game, and then that never happens because they're not actually allowed out, and there's probably a restraining order on them sometime. But they do post on blogs, and you know that's when it gets us back into TMP, doesn't it? So my theory is it's the people who whinge about it are all a bit rubbish. That's my reckoning.
Okay, I've got 2 words for you there. If you're claiming that competition war gamers are actually socially quite
relatively.
2 words: Dunning-Kruger, mate.
Yeah, you possibly could be right. But look, so Adam, do you want to wrap up and give us your proposition? Then we can all go around the houses and give you a judgment.
Actually, my proposition is this: because being a competition war gamer, I can't say they're all tossers because it's like that would be sort of like self-hate, and that's not a good thing. My proposition is this: I really, really enjoy going to competitions. I've done it for a long time, and it's enriched my life. However, I have met a lot of people, and I've played a lot of people that just really annoy me, okay, for various reasons, and they shouldn't have to. And the reason why they annoy me is they lack self-awareness, and they need to sort it out, and they need to figure out the self-awareness, whether this be about the smell or whether this be about the social interactions. They need to be able to step outside themselves and have an awareness of who they actually are. If they did, their life would get better, and so would competitions.
So that's your proposition then, and you're saying it's down to there are some of these people out there. That's the issue, and they just need to sort their lives out, and then that everything would all be hunky dory.
Yeah, you don't have to be. It's like you can choose to improve.
It's not nature nurture. It's down to flawed individuals. That's the issue.
Well, they're not flawed. They're just tossers.
Well, okay. All things are relative. Right. Okay. So Adam's proposition that competitions are spoiled by tossers rather than any other way of it being situational, contextual, all the rest of it. Let's run around it. Andy, what do you think?
I agree with Adam. I don't think yet people spoil it for being tossers. I just think that if you are a tosser, you need to sort yourself out. But I don't think competitions that we play are spoiled by tossers, because most of the people we play with and against, we tend to get on with. But yes, I agree with him.
Tamsin, what about you?
I agree with him. And I'd just like to add, I say, old chap, you're playing soy soldiers the wrong way.
Indeed.
Pip, pip.
Indeed. Pip, pip. Simon, what about you?
I agree with Adam. I think, at the end of the day, always have to remember we are just playing toy soldiers, and we are playing it for a laugh. And even if we are playing for first prize, we might be paying for a big £50, maybe. The world's not going to collapse. You're not going to win millions and millions of pounds of sponsorship. We're just playing a war game to have something to do on the weekend. So, and it's like every now and then, even I know I have to remind myself, sometimes stop being a dick. Don't argue the rules DVM style, and just play the game and have fun. It's just a game. Relax. Then if you need to walk outside and just go, come back in and go, it was me being the issue, not you.
Right. Okay then, Peter, running along the middle line. What about you?
Yeah, from what I'm saying, I think I've been in the fortunate position that I missed some of the DBM stuff. I've seen it, very little of it in a couple of the other competitions, but most I've been in the ADLG crowd. And I've been in the fortunate position of both my sons coming and playing in competitions with most of you. And, 99.9% of the players being very nice and coaching them along. So I've been very lucky in that, and also the international thing. I just think there's always a couple of Muppets that spoil it. We've seen it more in other sort of rule sets and that. But I think that's life, though. There's always going to be a couple of Muppets. That's just reality, be it in the pub, on the commute. in a war game circuit, it's not something that I'd shoot down the whole of competitive wargaming. I just think some people don't like the idea of the competitive.
There's more tossers at our club or even on this call as a percentage than you would do.
I wouldn't put yourself down, Tim.
I wasn't thinking of myself, Peter.
Right. Obviously, as Adam said about the mirror thing, just don't go there, okay? I think that just generally there are anyway. So it's just you just got to take the rough with the smooth sometimes, and sometimes they are just really annoying because it's your weekend away that you're having a break, you're chilling out, you're doing something that's not work related, and someone gets a bit precious, and you just like going, I don't need this. It's just let's just chill.
Okay, Dave, along with you, what do you think?
I think in the 10 years I've been playing competitive wargaming, I think it's chilled out a lot. I think in that whole time, and I'm talking about playing almost a competition every month, I've probably met 3 people I found to be awkward and difficult. And even those 3 people, I think 2 of them we brought round to being more chilled out and relaxed. So I think it's a brilliant hobby. It takes a bit of effort to get into it, but it takes a lot of effort and persistence to get competent and mid-table mediocrity, but it's worth it because I love it to bits. I absolutely love it to bits.
And it's especially when we've had, I don't know, several of us on there, when we've had new people coming in to play competition stuff. Yeah. And, I've certainly ended up spending half the game coaching them. Like Adam said, from the first deployment, you're going to take them apart, provided they don't do a go slow. I've ended up coaching them doing, do you mind if I explain a couple of things to you, halfway through when you're going to beat them anyway. And then you spend half the game trying to make their life, a bit more interesting for them. Well, make the game, not their life. Sorry, that's a bit too much.
So to round to me then, just to round off, Adam, I think you've had you had a very good run last week and you've had a very good run so far this week, but I'm afraid I just think on this one, you're an arse, really. And I think my theory is it's all very well and good setting out a way, an agenda, a roadmap for the people who spoil competitions for everybody to be self and analytical and improve themselves. But I don't really see how you can build any kind of foundation of a theory on the assumption that a subset of war gamers who lack more self-awareness and social skills than the rest of us have got any chance whatsoever of having that capability springing forth from within themselves. So I think, actually the secret is to go, there might be the odd one or two, bad eggs or whatever, but there is at your club, and there is a social game, and there would be if you went away to a War Games weekend with 1 million figures recreating the Battle of Quatre Bras or whatever it was. There'd always be those people, whatever situation. Competitions are absolutely no different to anything else. I think there is a genuine change in the competition circuit that the context has made it less competitive, but an idea that you can persuade these people to self-identify and self-fix when actually they're there and that's just who they are, and being ornery, it would be exactly the same if they're playing in a friendly game or if they're playing Stingray at Salute with a bunch of 15-year-old kids or 10-year-old kids. That's not going to fix. So I think if you're expecting the arsiest subset of war games to change, I think that means you, sir, I believe, are an arse. As the soft plastic figure of destiny hits the direct sunshine of time. That means that's all we've got time for this week, so we'll see you again next week for another episode of I'm Sorry, I Think You're an Arse. Oh, God, that was kind of deep, wasn't it? I think.
Oh no, that was interesting because I tried to be reasonable.
Yeah.
I got a few pointless insults in, but I tried to be reasonable, and it actually generated a fairly.
Yeah, no, that's what I say. It was an interesting conversation. It's not. It's not going to be what people. It doesn't follow on from the last comedy rant, but it's a different way of doing it, isn't it? It's. Okay, then. Well, look, with that theme music fading into the background, we do a very quick, I suspect, very quick wrap round this week on what games have been played. And I think, Simon, I hear that you and Andy played a game, and Andy doesn't want to talk about it. So do you want to tell us about your glorious victory?
Yeah, so Andy and I had a game of ADLG Renaissance last week. We were trying out a couple of new ideas for some of the later periods. So what was the battle we were playing, Andy? It was Battle of Okram.
Yeah, ask David. Dave is now capable of mispronouncing names in about 5 or 6 different languages, including Irish now. So if you want to mangle the name Okram, just ask Dave.
So basically, it was Irish versus English, I think it was. So good old-fashioned squabble. And we were trying a couple of different ideas on some of the later pike and shot versus some of the other infantry. And it got very, very brutal. And the English won the game quite convincingly. So we have to just, a couple of tweaks we were just thinking about to not make the later period armies so horrible. They're not fun to play.
Take away their machine guns.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was good to see you. You got the effect of what you want on the table. Just got to tweak a couple of statistics just to make it a little less.
Make it like your game, really.
Yeah.
Okay, getting there. And then, so Andy, you came off the wrong side of that one. How was your weekly Dave Ray? What was your special battle that you were recreating?
We did Bannockburn last night, and somewhat surprisingly, I won as the English. And
wow,
Hammer of the Scots.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we sent them homeward to think again. He won the initiative and attacked me, and there was some terrain, and I was able to get stuff into it before he was, and he discovered quite quickly that heavy spear don't operate that well in terrain, even against medium spear, and it all went very nicely. And then I had my longbows plinking away, shooting holes in his heavy spear, and but at the point where I killed one of his generals, he said, "Right, that's it. You can have this one." So there we go.
In that famous way that Robert the Bruce did, I guess.
Indeed, yeah. But I did see a comment about heavy spear by Phil Gardocki in his recent battle report. He says, "Heavy spear are the orcs of Atlatl."
Right, that's funny because I think I've got a lot of time for them. They're just such a good anti-cavalry weapon, but in the right place, you've got to be able to use that extra resilience. But okay then. So
we worked out the odds. You can still run over them with nice heavy knights. Nice heavy impact elite knights. Get them stomped.
But next week we're doing something, I can't even know the name of the thing, Agalabat or something like that, and it's Assyrians list 7 against Hurry Matani. So
wow,
God knows what that's all about.
You're jumping all around. Are there
Dave just found a list. Dave found a list of other battles which had strategists. So he just chucked that at me and said, "Well, let's try some of these." So there's
going to be a lot of those Indian chariots appearing on both sides, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like chariots in this one because it's like 12 or 1300
Celtic and Gallic chariots then running around, I imagine.
That's computerized chariots, but I'm going to have the early Assyrian list, so that'll be a new one for me. I'm not quite sure how to balance it. It's going to be.
Well, look, we will wish you good luck on that, and then I think it's time to actually play. We'll carry on with you and play your theme music.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
So, incroyable, yet again. Monsieur Andy, in fact, maybe I should delegate this to Dave if I'm going to do the French language. But no, Andy, tell us the answers from last week's quiz.
Well, if you remember, last week's topic was pulling rank, and there were 3 questions.
Tugging rank, I think it was.
No, nothing to do with tugging.
No.
Pulling rank, it's a proper military term, right?
Of course.
So the first question was, if a major outranks a lieutenant, why does a lieutenant general outrank a major general?
The lieutenant general is commander in lieu of the general.
No, the answer is major general is actually a shorthand name for sergeant major general, and the lieutenant outranks the sergeant major.
Okay, and is that African or European?
Completely clear.
Oh, English. If you look at some of the English Civil War historical orders of battle, you'll see a reference to sergeant major general.
Okay, Sergeant Major General. That would have made the song a bit more complicated. It wouldn't have.
Gilbert and Sullivan. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, indeed.
I am the very model of a modern Sergeant Major General.
Major General. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, stumbling. Okay, fire away. Right. Next answer.
Next one. I think Dave was suggesting he might know the answer to this one. In 1943, a civilian called Glyndwr Michael was given a false identity as Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. What role did he play in the invasion of Sicily?
He was dead.
He washed up on a corpse on the shore in Spain.
Plans for the invasion of Sardinia.
So was that Tamsin?
False plans for the invasion of Sardinia.
No.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, I'm just reading a book about it called Operation Mincemeat, they called it.
He had plans for invading southern France instead, wasn't he, or something? And
they had letters on him they had letters from a genuine general to Auchinleck or MacDonald or some, not MacDonald, what's his name? I can't remember. Alexander, that's what it was. And the Germans fell for it and believed that this was genuine information, and that they knew that the Allies, the Germans knew the Allies were going to have to bomb the airfields in Sicily wherever they went. But the Allies wanted to convince them they were going to invade Sardinia and Greece rather than in Sicily. So the Germans would spread out their defences.
All right. And what was your third question?
Third question was, at the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE, why was the Roman army commanded by the consul Varro rather than his co-consul Paulus?
It was his turn that day?
That's right.
Wow. So he just pulled rank by the day of the week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. One of them was cautious, one was reckless, and it happened to be the reckless guy's turn to command the army on the day of the battle.
Spot of luck. And with that spot of luck, I think we're luckily going to hear the music again.
Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond. Question. La légende le dit. Question. Elle dit aussi. Question. C'est une maladie. Question.
So Andy, after last week's slightly sniggersome theme, what depths are you plumbing for us this week in terms of theme for the question?
Well, this week is about successful generals, and the topic is called hard to beat. So the first question is, what was the nickname of
But you're staying with the same theme, aren't you? Actually,
Yeah.
you really are. I can see what you're doing here. Right. Okay.
What was the nickname of French Marshal Davout, who was reputed never to have lost a battle?
Okay.
Right. Second one, which Arab general, rated as a strategist in ADLG, is reputed to have fought over 100 battles and lost none of them?
Me, I know that one.
Yep, we'll flick through the book and try and remember that by next week. Yep.
Yeah, okay, right. And Alexander the Great had a 100% success rate in his battles. How many battles did he fight?
Ooh, interesting question. Okay, then.
Skirmishes?
Battles, Dave. Battles. That's the secret. But look, you'll find out next week.
Question. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond. Question. La légende le dit. Question. Elle dit aussi. Question. C'est une maladie. Question.
Okay, then. Well, another epic session of quizzing. I think you are going to have to get away from this unanastic theme at some point, Andy, but keep slipping it in as we go forwards. But
yeah, it keeps tugging you in a certain direction.
Yeah, it keeps tugging you in a certain direction. But if you can, if you could start us off then about what you've got planned for the next week, and don't go there, but painting wise, wargaming wise.
Painting wise is carrying on with the museum stuff.
Nice and simple.
I've kind of more or less finished the Indians. I mean, there's not a lot to do to them. They've got white bath towels and brown skin, and just got to paint their headgear, the swords and shields, and that's basically them done. Fantastic, Dave. Do you think you'll get the that army finished this week? Or
I'll certainly get the cavalry finished this week. I've still got the Scotsmen to do with their
your quilting.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. And those 10mm guys.
Yeah.
Maybe get them sorted out. Other than that, it's wait for the next big project and finding some money to pay for something.
Start planning it. Okay. Peter, do you see work stopping you gluing your hands together this week, or is that going to come back on the agenda?
Yeah, very much so. No gluing or I'm going to try and do some painting the weekend, but probably not. Got
It's
a
gonna be
lot
tough.
on for the next couple of weeks,
All right.
maybe next month, but you know.
Fine. Okay, well, that's all good. Simon, are you deep in year-end audit for another week? Is it going to be another 2 base week, do you think? Definitely.
If I'm lucky, I'll get another 2 bases. I'm hoping, like Peter, by the end of April, I'll be able to surface from the joys of end of year and go, now what can I do?
Okay. And Adam, your
Gotta love end of year.
Your new gainful employment, is that starting to settle down? Is there more stuff that's going to, are you inspired by ships and your new rereading of the book?
Well, I'm just doing supply work and teaching, and I'm staying at the same school for a few weeks. So it's like teaching is just really hard work. But no, I'll be reading the book, but I'll be finishing off my painting. And the only other important news really is I've got my legal team talking to the legal department in Toyman about getting the tickets up for sale.
Excellent. Yeah, that seems to have gone really well.
I'm kind of hoping by the time this podcast comes out, I should be saying, it's up. So keep checking Facebook.
It can actually be bought. People will be able to get down there to Bournemouth and hopefully roll some dice in Toyman. That's good. And Tamsin, do you think when will I be asking you next week the parachutist question and you're getting an affirmative answer, or are you back onto moving house again? What's on your next wargaming week?
Next week, next few days, finish painting for 6mm, get them varnished, and then start the basing. So I might have finished them by next time. I'll probably have started the basing by the next podcast recording.
Okay, so you'll be gluing sand to your hands and fingers. That'll probably be it.
Yeah,
that'll be it.
Probably
Good.
it.
Okay. I think hopefully I will do this handoff with Dave at Hanging Lane Gyratory System. Probably get some undercoating done. Possibly now that I've done the horses, make a start on these Legio Heroica Ottomans as well. I still keep thinking I should go back to the 10mm Germans, but they're a bit far away and tucked away in a corner at the moment, so I do keep forgetting them. And I've got to write up a few more army lists for Ian at Fighting 15s, because he's got the Romans and the Huns already on the website from the ADLG list that I put together, and it was really, really interesting trying to put together a list that is viable at 200 points and 128 figures as well. Kind of really intriguing, but I've got a decent Hunnic list and a very decent solid late Roman list that are up there, and they're now out for under 40 quid a go, which is going back to our pre-Christmas conversation about how cheap things are. Works out at about 31 pence a figure, which I suspect might be one of the cheapest, best value, lowest cost, whichever way you want to put it, rates going. So hopefully if I can encourage him and help him to put a few more of those, it might allow some more people to throw some cheap ADLG armies onto the table as well. And next up is really looking at the Mesoamericans as well. So that's our next plan, and see if there's some of those Aztec and Mayan and all the rest of it lists that we can cobble together, and allow people to start fielding some of those ones in obscure periods that they've never been able to do in different sets of rules. So, and I think
when you work out the points value of those, Tim, do you take into account the Scrabble points value as well?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, if they're on a triple word score, it increases the cost of the CNC. If you can do, definitely. So that's
I just think they've got the best names with Jaguar Warriors, Eagle Warriors, and things like that. It's just fantastic.
There is some really, really cool stuff. So it's interesting looking at those lists, because I've never really looked at them before at all. So actually looking at them and thinking, would that actually work? It's kind of an interesting exercise, and we're going to record a podcast on those lists as well, which will probably come out in the next few weeks.
They're also sort of lockdown friendly because they all have the sort of bowl haircut as well.
Yes, yeah, that's already a big part of it. And I think on that note, as we all, if we were living in Wales, we'd actually be able to go get a haircut by now, but we're not. We're all in kind of London and South East.
That's not getting a haircut. That's getting sheared. That's different.
Yes, that's a different thing. Yes. Well, certainly on that note, I think it's time to draw a close to it. So thank you everybody for listening, and see you all, or listen to you all, or you listen to us again all next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
you
when
can do
I've
it as a
seen-
quiz.
BA.
No, when I've seen Gordon get upset for the whole of a trip coming back from Cardiff and still be ranting about it, upsetting Gordon that much. Now that was something special.